The announcement echoed through the industry like a sudden, chilling gust of wind through a pristine glass house. For years, natural titanium had been the champion, the pinnacle of Apple's premium identity. It was more than just a color. It was the hue of a safe future, where minimalism and industrial chic reigned supreme. It spoke of raw strength and understated elegance. But in a move that felt to many loyalists like a cold-blooded betrayal, Apple has officially retired the shade that defined the entire Pro era. This isn't a mere seasonal refresh or a minor adjustment to the palette. It is the end of a long-standing peace treaty with the minimalist aesthetic. For nearly a decade, the design philosophy at Apple Park had been governed by a principle of quiet restraint. We lived through the eras of silver, space gray, and the subtle, organic warmth of the titanium finish. It was comfortable, predictable, and incredibly successful. However, in the hallowed halls of the design studio, that very success had become a cage. The safe aesthetic was no longer seen as a virtue. It was being viewed as a stagnation. By retiring natural titanium, Apple is effectively burning the bridge to its own past. They are signaling that the era of the safe smartphone, the one designed to disappear into the background of our lives, is officially dead. When you look at the current state of technology, it is easy to see why such a radical departure was necessary. We have entered a period of boring tech. Every flagship looks like a slight variation of its predecessor, a sea of muted tones and flat rectangles that lack a soul. The iPhone 18 Pro, however, is a refusal to conform. It represents an aggressive, almost violent shift in identity. This is not a device intended to sit quietly in a pocket. It is a tectonic movement in industrial design designed to provoke, to challenge, and to dominate the visual landscape. From an insider's perspective, this sacrifice was a calculated strategic move. Within the labs at Apple Park, the removal of natural titanium was described not as a loss, but as a clearing of the canvas. To build something truly ambitious, the old icons had to be cleared away. There was internal friction, of course. The Apple marketing team, focused on the massive sales figures of the previous models, pushed back. They favored the precious metal branding that had worked so well, but the Apple design team, the visionaries looking a decade ahead, won the argument. They realized that to introduce a device with futuristic energy, they had to kill the minimalist metal obsession first. There is, however, an undeniable tension in the air. Apple is taking a massive gamble by potentially alienating its most loyal fans, the ones who value the rugged, raw industrial look of a metal slab. These users are left questioning why the company would discard its most successful finish in history. Is it arrogance, or is it a deep understanding of a shift we haven't yet perceived? Apple is betting everything on the idea that the world is finally tired of the quiet. They are moving away from the tool and toward the entity. The first hints emerging from the supply chain suggest that this change isn't just about a new color palette. It's about a fundamental transformation in the physical state of the device itself. This is where the story truly begins to shift. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. We are no longer talking about a static piece of hardware. The iPhone 18 Pro feels different to the touch, reacting to its environment in ways that no titanium alloy ever could. It marks the transition from a cold, inert object to something that feels almost organic. As we look closer at this new monolithic slab of intelligence, a haunting realization sets in. Apple hasn't just changed the look, they have changed how the device breathes. The hardware is no longer a shell. It is becoming a living skin for the intelligence within. Inside the pressurized atmosphere of Apple Park, a philosophical war was being waged. The Apple marketing team looked at the spreadsheets and saw a legacy of dominance. They saw the immense success of natural titanium as a brand name, a word that had become synonymous with strength, luxury, and professional-grade durability. They wanted to refine it, perhaps introduce a glossier finish, but the Apple design team, led by visionaries who saw the iPhone 18 Pro as more than just a product, remained adamant. They argued that precious metal was a relic of the industrial age, a conceptual anchor holding the brand to a time when devices were merely tools to be used and discarded. To them, the future wasn't found in the cold weight of a metal alloy. It was found in futuristic energy. This energy required a canvas that wasn't just passive, but active. The conflict wasn't just about aesthetics, it was about the soul of the device itself. The designers eventually won by proving that the material they had engineered wasn't just a casing. It was a sophisticated extension of the silicon brain inside. The result of this victory is a palette that defies traditional description. Gone are the static, flat colors of the past decade. In their place come lunar gold, plasma blue, and deep nebula. These are not merely pigments applied to a surface. They are living colors that react to the world around them. Lunar gold doesn't just reflect light, it seems to trap it, creating a soft, shifting glow that mimics the shimmering craters of a moonlit landscape. Plasma blue possesses a depth that feels liquid, as if an electrical charge is coursing just beneath the surface of the device. Deep nebula is perhaps the most radical, a shifting purple-black that changes hue based on the angle of the user's grip and the intensity of light, resembling the birth of stars in a distant galaxy. These colors react to the environment, shimmering with a vitality that titanium, for all its strength, could never achieve. They represent a bold departure from the precious metal branding into something far more ethereal, dynamic, and alive. The secret behind this visual magic lies in a breakthrough of material science that sounds like science fiction. This isn't just glass, and it isn't just ceramic. It is a molecularly infused glass-ceramic hybrid, a material born from pressure and heat that bonds these substances at an atomic level. This hybrid allows for a transparency and depth that was previously considered physically impossible. Apple isn't just coating the phone, they are infusing the color directly into the structure of the material. This ensures that the color is not a layer that can be scratched or faded, but a fundamental property of the device's physical makeup. The transition from the mechanical, bolted-together feel of the titanium era to this monolithic, seamless slab is jarring. It feels like moving from the age of steam engines to the age of warp drives. The phone no longer feels like it was manufactured, it feels like it was grown in a lab. But why go to such lengths? Why abandon the proven path of metal for this complex hybrid? The answer lies in the shift from a mechanical tool to an AI entity. A tool is something you pick up and put down, a cold object designed for a specific task. An AI entity, however, is a digital companion. It needs to feel responsive, organic, and intelligent. The iPhone 18 Pro is designed to signal this transition. By moving away from the industrial aesthetic, Apple is making the hardware softer in a conceptual sense, even as it becomes physically tougher than any metal frame. The device is no longer just a window. It is a physical manifestation of the artificial intelligence living within it. It is designed to be a symbiotic partner, and its living exterior is the first step in creating that emotional bond with the user. When you hold your current phone, perhaps an iPhone 15 or 16, against this new vision, it suddenly feels like an artifact from a bygone era. It feels heavy, clunky, and strangely dumb. The sharp edges of the titanium frame, once symbols of precision, now feel like the primitive tools of an ancient civilization. This is the Apple effect taken to its extreme. They haven't just made a better phone, they have made your current phone feel ancient. The iPhone 18 Pro makes you realize that you've been carrying a brick when you could have been carrying a piece of the future. It's a psychological shift that turns a loyal customer into a pioneer, someone ready to leave the safety of the past for the predictive fluidity of tomorrow. Of course, achieving this was anything but easy. The manufacturing challenges were insurmountable, pushing Apple's production partners to the brink. Apple's impossible production standards meant that thousands of prototypes were discarded because the molecular infusion wasn't perfectly uniform. The yield rates were a nightmare for the supply chain, creating a conflict with partners who struggled to keep up with the complexity of the glass-ceramic bond. Yet, Apple refused to compromise. They needed this specific texture, this specific light reactivity to set the stage for what was happening internally. Because as striking as these colors are, they are merely the gateway. The most radical change isn't what you can see on the surface, but the hidden transformation occurring deep inside the glass itself, where the boundary between hardware and software begins to dissolve, and where the light itself begins to behave differently. The transition from the shimmering, living exterior to the internal architecture of the iPhone 18 Pro is where the true narrative of this device begins. As you hold this monolithic slab of intelligence, you are not just holding a collection of high-end components. You are holding a fundamental shift in the history of personal computing. Apple has effectively retired the traditional concept of the smartphone chip leaving the legacy of the A-series silicon in the dust of the previous decade. In its place lies the neural core. This is not merely a naming convention change designed for marketing appeal, it is a total reconstruction of how a device processes existence. Where previous generations relied on raw transistor counts to execute commands after they were given, the neural core treats intelligence as a physical material, woven directly into the hardware's molecular fabric. It is an architecture that does not just calculate, it reflects and anticipates. It is designed to host a living AI entity, creating a cognitive bridge between the cold, binary logic of a machine and the intuitive, nonlinear flow of human thought. This internal revolution births a phenomenon that the Apple design team calls predictive fluidity. For the forward thinker, the experience of using the iPhone 18 Pro is no longer defined by the friction of waiting for a response. It is about the device anticipating the intent before the action is even fully formed in the mind of the user. The neural core learns your biological rhythms, your professional workflows, and your digital habits with such startling precision that it begins to reroute internal power and preload complex virtual environments before your finger even grazes the surface of the glass. If you are a creator who typically opens a heavy suite of video editing tools every afternoon, the phone has already warmed the internal liquid metal frame to its optimal thermal state and synchronized the necessary data packets in a state of hyper-efficient readiness. It is a silent, invisible dance of electrons that feels almost organic, erasing the digital lag that has defined our relationship with technology for decades. We are no longer talking about nanometers or clock speeds. We are talking about the elimination of the latency of thought itself. The performance gap between this new reality and the previous era is nothing short of staggering. When you place the iPhone 18 Pro next to an iPhone 15 or even an iPhone 16 Pro, the older devices immediately reveal their mechanical nature. They feel like artifacts from an industrial age, clunky, reactive tools that require constant, manual instruction to perform even basic tasks. The jump to the 18 Pro is not a simple step forward in a linear progression. It is a leap across a vast technological canyon. The older models were bricks of metal and glass designed to perform tasks. The 18 Pro is a digital companion designed to inhabit your life. This creates a sense of authority in the palm of your hand that is both empowering and almost intimidating. There is a distinct ethical tone to carrying this much predictive power. The device knows you so well that it begins to blur the line between your own agency and its algorithmic assistance. It is a provocative shift, one that demands a user who is ready to surrender the manual controls of the past for the seamless, guided future of the AI era. If you find yourself drawn to this evolution, if you are one of the forward thinkers who recognizes the necessity of leaving the safe aesthetic behind to stay ahead of the curve, ensure you are subscribed to this journey as we continue to peel back the layers of this evolution. We are witnessing the death of the tool and the birth of a symbiotic partner. However, this immense internal power and the sophistication of the neural core presented the engineers at Apple Park with a massive physical dilemma. A brain this advanced, capable of such deep and complex thought, could not be properly reflected by the display technologies of the past. For years, OLED was the gold standard, but the designers realized that even the best pixels were failing to capture the true depth and vibrancy of the AI's output. The current screen still suffered from the physical limitations of light bleed and a lack of absolute infinite depth. The intelligence within the iPhone 18 Pro was like a vast, dark ocean of data, and it required a window that could match its intensity. The standard screens of today were simply not enough to show what the neural core was capable of seeing. For to truly witness the future, the light itself needed a way to emerge from a perfect, absolute void. The screen on the iPhone 18 Pro is where the philosophical shift becomes a physical reality. Apple decided that for this device, simulation was no longer enough. They announced the death of the pixel as we know it, introducing the true black display. This is not just another incremental upgrade, it is the implementation of a technology that eliminates light bleed entirely. When a pixel on this screen is off, it is more than just dark, it is a vacuum. The light does not just stop, it ceases to exist in that specific space, creating a contrast ratio that is technically infinite because the denominator is a true zero. Looking at the display for the first time is a disorienting experience for the forward thinker. Because there is no light bleed and the blacks are so absolute, The user interface seems to lose its tether to the hardware. Icons do not appear to be rendered on a glass surface. They appear to float in a void of pure, deep darkness. It is as if you are looking through a window into a different dimension where light is the only thing that exists, suspended in a bottomless well of nothingness. This visual depth gives the neural core's output a weight and presence that feels tactile. Notifications do not just pop up, they materialize out of the shadows, glowing with a luminescence that feels organic rather than digital. This achievement finally brings an end to the zero-bezel lie that has plagued the industry for a decade. By integrating the display layers directly into the molecularly infused glass-ceramic hybrid, the Apple design team has created a design where the hardware effectively disappears into the display. There is no visible border, no notch, and no interruption. The iPhone 18 Pro is the first device to truly fulfill the original vision of a single, continuous pane of intelligent glass. When the screen is active, the physical edges of the phone seem to melt away, leaving the user with nothing but their content and the predictive intelligence of the neural core. The phone no longer feels like a box containing a screen. It feels like the screen itself has gained a physical body. For the professional user, this shift is transformative. In the worlds of high-end video editing and photography, the True Black display offers a level of color accuracy and dynamic range that was previously reserved for studio monitors. Editors can now see the true shadow detail of their footage without the gray haze of traditional mobile screens. In the realm of gaming, the immersion is total. The void allows for a depth of field and a sense of scale that tricks the brain into forgetting the device's physical dimensions. You are not playing a game on a phone, you are interacting with a world that has replaced your immediate reality. This was the ultimate goal for the entire project, the strategy of immersion. Apple wants the user to completely forget they are holding a piece of advanced electronics. By removing the visual cues of the phone, the bezels, and the familiar glow of a screen, they have removed the barrier between the human and the AI. This is a deliberate psychological maneuver. When the tool disappears, the interaction feels more natural and intimate. You are no longer navigating a menu. You are communicating with an entity. The True Black display is the necessary mirror for the neural core, reflecting its depth and complexity back to the user in a way that feels like a conversation rather than a computation. But there is a secret behind this leap that only those deep within the industry have whispered about. According to Tech Insider Insight, this specific display technology was never originally intended for the iPhone 18 Pro. It was a top-secret project developed for Apple's next-generation professional monitors. However, the design team, desperate to find a canvas worthy of the neural core, effectively stole the technology from the other divisions. They fought internal battles to pivot the supply chain, insisting that the iPhone 18 Pro needed this visual soul to survive its transition. It was a high-stakes gamble, but the result is a visual experience that nothing else on the market can touch. Yet, as incredible as it is to look at, a phone is more than just a screen. As the forward thinker gazes into the perfect darkness of the True Black display, a new question arises. If the hardware has visually disappeared and the screen has become a void, how does the phone actually feel in the hand? With the bold colors radiating a futuristic energy and the screen pulling you into an infinite depth, the physical interaction must match the visual wonder. The transition from seeing the future to touching it is the final piece of the design puzzle, and it leads directly into a radical reimagining of how we physically interact with our digital companions. The cold, mechanical buttons of the past are gone, and what remains is something far more fluid. The transition from the visual to the tactile is where the iPhone 18 Pro truly sheds its identity as a mere machine. The Apple design team realized that a device looking like a seamless pane of glass must also feel like one, completely unburdened by the mechanical artifacts of the past. Gone are the physical buttons, replaced by an advanced haptic feedback system that mimics the sensation of physical resistance without a single moving part. When the forward thinker grips the device, the sides feel smooth and unbroken, yet the phone responds to pressure with a precision that feels more real than a mechanical switch. This is the ergonomic revolution, a monolithic slab of intelligence that conforms to the user's touch through software-driven physical sensation. The invisible buttons appear as subtle tactile pulses against the palm, reinforcing the idea that the hardware is no longer a static cage for the software. This fluidity of form creates a redemption of design, bridging the gap between high technology and fine art. By combining the vivid energy of the futuristic colors, lunar gold, plasma blue, and deep nebula, with the infinite depth of the true black display, the iPhone 18 Pro becomes a futuristic artifact. It is a piece of digital jewelry that commands attention through its sheer presence. The molecularly infused glass-ceramic hybrid catches the light to create a shifting aura around the phone, contrasting sharply with the deep, silent void of the screen. This masterpiece of balance ensures the device feels substantial and precious, a far cry from the utilitarian minimalism of the natural titanium era. The phone is no longer just a tool to be used. It is a physical manifestation of a new digital status. However, the sheer density of the neural core and the energy required to drive the true black display created a massive thermal hurdle that threatened the device's slim profile. To solve this, the Apple design team utilized a liquid metal internal frame. This structural core acts as a high-efficiency thermal conduit, pulling heat away from the processor and distributing it evenly across the entire surface of the device. This allows the iPhone 18 Pro to maintain peak performance without ever feeling hot to the touch. This efficiency translates directly into a feeling of infinite battery life. The AI manages every single electron with such granular precision that energy waste is virtually eliminated. The phone breathes with the user, entering deep sleep states in the microseconds between tasks, ensuring that the forward thinker never has to worry about the percentage remaining in their day. This level of reliability and power is what finally makes the Pro moniker mean something substantial again. For years, the term was diluted by marketing. But now, the iPhone 18 Pro is a professional tool in the truest sense. It is a mobile workstation capable of real-time 8K spatial rendering and complex architectural modeling, all while sitting comfortably in the pocket. The hardware doesn't just support the professional, it anticipates their workflow. The predictive fluidity of the neural core prepares assets before they are requested, turning the act of creation into a seamless extension of thought. This marks the moment where the phone stops being a distraction and starts being a force multiplier for human creativity, bridging the gap between imagination and digital reality with terrifying efficiency. The emotional weight of this shift is profound. The user realizes that they are no longer carrying a phone, but are accompanied by a personal digital companion. It is a symbiotic relationship where the device learns the rhythm of your life, the cadence of your speech, and the true intent behind your actions. The iPhone 18 Pro is art that thinks. It is a reflection of the user's own potential, magnified through a lens of perfect black and brilliant color. This emotional climax occurs when the user realizes that the device is no longer an external object, but an extension of their own presence in the digital world. The connection is no longer about checking a screen. It is about living within an ecosystem of intelligence that feels as natural as breathing. Yet, for all its visibility and bold presence, there is one final hidden feature that the Apple marketing team has kept in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to unveil it. They call it active camouflage. Leveraging the true black display technology and the light reactive properties of the exterior shell, the phone can essentially disappear into its environment. When placed on a surface, the sensors on the back capture the texture and color of the surroundings, projecting it through the molecularly infused glass, while the display mimics the same pattern. It is the ultimate expression of the invisible technology vision, a device so advanced that it can choose to be seen as a bold statement of the future or vanish entirely into the background of your life. This final revelation changes everything about how we perceive the physical existence of our devices, suggesting a future where technology is omnipresent yet completely hidden from the human eye. The death of natural titanium was not an end, but a necessary ritual for the rebirth of the iPhone identity. For years, the sleek metal of previous generations represented a plateau in human engineering, a peak of safe minimalism. But to reach the next summit, Apple had to burn the bridge to its history. By retiring the safe grays that defined the Pro line, the Apple design team signaled that the era of the precious metal phone was over. This was the clearing of the canvas for a device that no longer relies on its casing to prove its worth. The iPhone 18 Pro is the first of its kind to prioritize the soul over the shell, proving that true luxury no longer lies in the weight of titanium, but in the weightless efficiency of adaptive intelligence. This shift has fundamentally altered the cultural status symbol. In the past, owning a Pro model was a declaration of aesthetic taste based on physical presence. Now, the status lies in the partnership between the forward thinker and the machine. It is no longer about having the metal one that gleams on a table. It is about possessing the intelligent one that anticipates a user's needs before they are even articulated. When someone catches a glimpse of the shifting hues of lunar gold or the deep void of the true black display, they aren't just seeing expensive hardware. They are seeing a user who has transcended traditional tech. The iPhone 18 Pro is a sign that the person holding it is living in a future that the rest of the world is still trying to download. As we stand at this threshold, the question becomes personal. Are you ready to let go of the past? To embrace the iPhone 18 Pro is to abandon the comfort of the familiar. It is a commitment to a life where the boundaries between the physical and the digital are permanently blurred. The Apple marketing team knows this transition is intimidating, yet they have bet everything on the idea that the forward thinker is tired of the mundane. The reliance on predictive fluidity and the symbiotic relationship with the neural core suggests a world where we no longer operate our devices. We coexist with them. This is the logic of the hype. Not just a campaign to sell units, but a progression toward the invisible technology Apple has dreamed of for decades. Looking ahead, this design language will ripple through the next decade. The molecularly infused materials and the liquid metal frame are the foundation for a future where technology is woven into the fabric of reality. The active camouflage feature is the ultimate proof of this trajectory. It hints at a time when we will no longer be surrounded by glowing glass slabs. Instead, our intelligence will be omnipresent, hidden in plain sight, and only revealing itself when called upon. The iPhone 18 Pro is the final bridge to that era. It is a beautiful, bold artifact that paradoxically wants to disappear, proving that the ultimate expression of power is the ability to be everywhere and nowhere at once. We are reaching the point where the word phone itself feels archaic. To call the iPhone 18 Pro a phone is like calling a modern spacecraft a wagon. It is a personal digital companion, a monolithic slab of intelligence that serves as a mirror to our own potential. The transition from the era of natural titanium to this bold, living entity marks the end of the mobile phone as we knew it. We are no longer just users. We are architects of a new digital existence, and the tools we use must be as fluid as the minds that wield them. The age of the machine is ending, and the age of intelligence has begun. The future belongs to those who can see it coming, and with the iPhone 18 Pro, that future has finally arrived in a form that is as beautiful as it is undeniably, breathtakingly powerful.